We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. Tonight I am joined by my joint host, the very, very busy Julie Chiariello, who is filling in for the moving Kim Cooper, but more on that in a second. Julie's guest tonight knows many, and many know him from the Seattle HEMPFEST, plus much, much more. First, Julie and I are going to have our usual short little conversation before we bring in our guest. And hello, Julie. How are we tonight?
Hello. Well, I was just telling you that I needed to get my head checked to cover Kim's shows, but I just couldn't possibly think to add on more to my plate. But here I am because I love Kim, and I wanted to support her because she's covered for me a couple times. And luckily, I was able to get a rock and roll counterculture hero of mine on the show tonight. Yeah, and I twisted up my hash joint, Al, and I'm just jumping in the saddle, ready to ride.
Yeah,
Here
right.
I am.
That's all right. Good stuff. Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, Kim is on the move. They're actually going to be building a house, and she's been basically, as she says, on the road for about 6 years. And they're heading back to the farm, and they're setting up some, I believe, temporary situations for living while they build their house in that location. So she's on the move. Yeah, so she's off for the month of June. So
I saw looks beautiful.
Yes. I saw that they loaded everything up in the sea can so they could store it there, and it's it's quite the adventure. So I wish them luck over the next month to get everything up and rolling, and you, Julie, as well. You're going to be needing a new pair of shoes by the time the month's out. You're going to be running here and there as it is.
Yeah, that's true. I was definitely burning through shoe leather. But we're achieving a lot of good things. The summer issue is in. And
nice.
That's also why I wanted to invite Vivian McPeak on tonight, because it is his first official issue with us as managing editor.
Nice.
Which was really exciting.
Yeah.
It's really exciting, and it was definitely, this issue is just filled with amazing things, so we're going to dig in and talk about that tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm just happy to be here, and really honored to have Vivian McPeak on the show. I mean, he's been here before.
Yes.
Everybody knows his work. I'm sure, for those who don't know, who are listening in, he is executive director of Seattle HEMPFEST, and recently came on board as managing editor at SKUNK. And he has accolades through decades of being a counterculture activist hero for so many, inspiring so many. So let's bring Vivian on and let's dig in. I'm excited to talk about the current state of cannabis. Welcome, Vivian. Thank you for coming on with us.
Hey, guys. What's going on? Thanks so much for having me. It's always great to be here.
Hey, well, we really appreciate you coming on.
What a strange and wild trip it's been so far, right, Viv?
Yes, indeed, man, indeed. And the beat goes on, as they say.
The beat goes on. I was excited when I was thinking about what I wanted to ask you, since you've already come on to my show before, and I wouldn't be tapping into your history or your legacy, but more just shooting the shit. And I was just thinking, you know, what a bizarre and wild place we really are in, where we're kind of in between the worlds. You know, we're birthing new worlds while old worlds still exist. And it was just like, wow, it is a wild place that we are at right now with the current state of the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
You've been watching it for a long time. What do you think about where we currently are? I know it's a multifaceted question, but just marveling at kind of this moment that we are at, which is filled with shadow and light.
Well, you know, it's more dramatic to think about where we're at if we just think about where we were not that long ago, and it's almost hard to believe that, you know, 12, 13 years ago, cannabis legalization still kind of felt like a pipe dream, no pun intended. And then here we are today, you know, with so much going on, and we've got a long ways to go, a lot of heavy lifting to do. But man, I mean, it's a different world than it was just a decade ago. You know, on the last election on November 3rd, we had 5 states that had measures on the ballot to legalize either recreational or medical cannabis: Arizona, Mississippi, Montana, New Jersey, and South Dakota. And voters in Mississippi, Montana, and South Dakota had more than one measure to consider. And the crazy thing is that every ballot measure passed by a large margin. It's really the first major election in recent memory where every marijuana initiative under consideration passed. And so that brings us to today, where 36 states, including D.C., have adopted medical cannabis laws, and 15 of those states have adopted recreational cannabis laws. And then there's a bunch of, you know, potential reform legislation on the plate right now that could bring it further very soon.
Yeah, so we're kind of just seeing this, we're really kind of cresting a whole new threshold, I feel, where the tidal wave is going to overtake soon. We don't know how long. You know, it's been kind of wild with kind of a hot cold feeling with the new administration, which I was hoping for more hot. But like you said, it doesn't really matter because the ballot measures are passing. The people are speaking, just like in New York, you know, also, you know, and just so many others. I've been disheartened to see, Vivian, that we have to fight a tooth and nail for home grow. That home grow, it's weird. Again, it's like this shadow and light thing that, like, home grow is getting attacked in certain states because of monopoly systems where some big guys and conglomerates want to come in and dominate the market, at the same time that a victory garden movement and this kind of back to earth feeling is happening as well. And there's evidence for that everywhere, that so many more people are growing veggies at home, want to try to grow cannabis. So isn't that also a weird dichotomy that we just have to deal with? We just have to meet head on.
Well, it is frustrating. No, I mean, here where I am in Seattle, Washington, our state was one of the first 2 states pass significant retail legalization. I call it commoditization personally. But we don't have home grow in our state, in Washington state. Unless you're a patient, and then you can only grow a handful of plants unless you go on a state registry, which I wouldn't do. So, you know, regular citizens that aren't medical marijuana patients that don't have documentation can't home grow here in Washington state. And it is frustrating because what we're seeing in kind of corporate greed mentality that we all assume culture, it was kind of a little bit better than that, but we're rushing in, and yeah, you know, threatened by home. And it's like, I'm sorry, but here in Washington State, you can brew 20,000 gallons of liquor, and the alcohol industry isn't hurting at all. So there's no way that a significant amount of people are going to grow their own weed and affect the retail market at all. it's going to be more hobbies.
It's crazy that you can
It's so disappointing.
you can
Go
produce
ahead,
so
Al.
much. It's crazy that you can produce so much alcohol, but when it comes to cannabis, it's a whole new issue. As if it's it's a threat to society.
Yeah.
Unlike the alcohol, it's just crazy.
It's disappointing. It's like tomatoes. People grow their tomatoes at home. They're never going to stop buying tomatoes
Yeah, exactly.
at the market.
Yeah.
There just will be a time period where they won't. But as we all know, doing a home grow, it only supports your habit for a few months.
And
If you're lucky.
there are times there's parts of the tomato that is actually very bad for us, and it's on that list of one of those that could actually kill you, depending on what you consume and when you consume it. But it's a tomato. It's a tomato, right? We grow in our backyard. Like I planted some yesterday.
Well, the irony of it is that cannabis actually regenerates the brain's organic process of alcohol use. So it might be a good idea.
Vivian, you seem to be cutting out a little bit. I'm sorry. I want to hear every single word you say. But you're cutting out a little bit, my friend. I'm sorry about that.
Are you moving around?
I'm actually not moving around, but is it working better now? Am I coming through now?
That sounds good. That sounds clear.
Yeah, we'll give it another try. If it becomes a problem, we'll just go to a commercial break and I'll hang up from our call with you and I'll call you back if it becomes a problem. Okay? So.
Cool beans.
Yeah, because I wanted to hear more. I wanted to hear more of what you were saying of what it's like to live in a place where they didn't allow home grow and what that has done to the culture. And you were breaking up a little bit when you were explaining that because I really wanted to hear that because to me it's kind of bleak and desolate that people can't just try their hand if they want to, but that it's this whole process that people have to go through in order to be allowed to do it.
Well, it's even worse when we're in a state that doesn't have mandatory testing for heavy metals and pesticides and fungus, So, people have to take kind of a leap of faith when they purchase the recreational weed from a retail store. They have to take a leap of faith that it doesn't have pesticides in it or heavy metals and other things. For people that have compromised immune systems and stuff, but don't have the capability to grow it at home, they just, got to deal with that. But the people that would be growing it at home, they should have that right. They should have that opportunity. Just like anybody else who wants to, grow tomatoes in their garden or brew some home brew in their garage. So, I don't see it as full legalization if you can't produce your own. And produce the strains that you want and that you like and that might work best for you if you have a medical condition, and grow in the organic soil that you choose to trust. So we have a lot of work to do. We're still dealing with a lot of bigotry, a lot of cannabis stigma and stuff like that. And I think that us older folks will probably be dealing with that for the rest of our lives. But it's changing, and we're making progress. And it's because of the sweat equity and hard work of so many community activists all across America and the world. And we're turning things around. We're overgrowing government. We're getting it done, but it's just taking a while.
Yeah, it's crazy. True. It's crazy. What is it? 2/3 or almost like 3/4 of the U.S. lives in a location where it's legal one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, we're making progress,
But yet, it's still federally illegal. It's just like, wow, come on, Joe.
On May 28th, which was not that long ago,
correct.
Representative Gerald Nadler reintroduced the MORE Act, the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, and if enacted, that would end federal prohibition as we know it by removing it from the Controlled Substances Act. It would remove all criminal penalties under law. And the U.S. House of Representatives representatives absolutely voted in favor of the MORE Act, like 220-something to 160-something in December of 2020, which is the first time in half a century that the Chamber of Congress voted on a bill to end the prohibition. And I hate to get political, but, frankly, there's one party that's blocking legalization and another party on the whole that is trying to advance it. And so, we need to support anybody from any party that is putting bills forward to end federal prohibition. And then, of course, that'll open up a whole new can of worms, but we'll deal with that when it comes.
Yeah, I know you don't want to get political and all that. Now, but I know, wasn't there something recently about a Republican person was going to bring something in? Or, bring it up as try to, as from their end of things. But I know the MORE Act has been passed at the House.
Well, there's a couple things. Republican representatives David Joyce from Ohio and Don Young from Alaska introduced the Common Sense Cannabis Reform for Veterans, Small Businesses and Medical Professionals Act, another bill that would arguably federally legalize cannabis. But, once again, the leadership of the Republican Party is the kibosh on anything like that.
Oh, I know.
So also, there's some folks in both parties that are trying to make things happen for us, and we got to support them both.
Yes, yeah, and it's just obvious one party's doing it more than the other. So, but it's it's good to see the conversation is there, right? It's better than having it buried and not being heard. But the conversation is there, and in order for it to be heard and be in the news, it helps progress the cause and get closer to that ultimate goal.
What I think is exciting is something that's brand new that hasn't been happening before, and that is in these states where the state legislatures recently have passed these legalization bills, which is also kind of new because it's not citizens' initiatives. State legislatures are starting to proactively pass legalization bills, but these last several laws that have passed in the last election all had proactively some kind of equity component, some kind of racial and social equity component, kind of, insufficient, inadequate, but it's a starting point. And it's the first time that has happened.
You read my mind. Yeah. Vivian, you've read my mind. I mean, that is literally what I was going to talk to you about, because you mentioned it briefly in your description of what Washington is like right now. And I think it's also reflective on the whole. It is disturbing to me, and this is definitely something I wanted to dig in with you, is just how whitewashed the so-called legal cannabis industry is. And I've been speaking with natives up in Washington State, and there are some issues with the MORE Act, specifically with equity. And we're seeing issues with equity across the board. We're also seeing successes, but it's definitely not something where you can just kind of sit back and relax and let it all roll out. We need to get active. And part of what we're doing with the summer issue was putting supernova women of color in cannabis on the cover, covering their stories, and actually the whole entire issue, right, Vivian, is filled with stories of Black success, Black entrepreneurship, Native entrepreneurship, Native cannabis community. And then we're going to keep going. We have the Chicano issue coming up. So I think this is a huge subject. I mean, I think this is, if we're looking at the current state of affairs within cannabis, I think this is a big, big thing. And from my standpoint, I guess I'm throwing my lot in with the power of consistency and the power of the word, and that through consistent storytelling and through consistent giving voice to everyone in the space, from Black, Latino, Asian, LGBTQ, how important it is just that it's consistent. That's what I've been feeling.
Well, you can't talk about Black Lives Matter without talking about American drug policy, the drug war, and of course most of the drug war efforts and funding has gone against cannabis. And the people in jails and prisons have been disproportionately impacted. The communities of color have been disproportionately targeted, arrested, prosecuted, felonized through these drug laws. And so if anybody should have opportunity to enjoy the fruits of reform efforts, it should be that same community, those same communities that have been attacked so disproportionately. And so it's really critical that the cannabis industry isn't a bunch of old white rich guys like everything else that we have going on mostly in our society. And that's a battle. I mean, that's going to take some serious effort. And, I have to say, after, going through every single article in the summer edition of SKUNK Magazine coming up here, I was just so impressed by not only the quality of the writing and the quality of the content, but also the representation across the board. And it really shows that you put such a focus on prioritizing these stories of success and these stories of the experience of people of color as they have, worked to compensate for all of the injustice that's been thrown at them.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, when you're saying that, I'm thinking of Aja Yasser's article, which I felt so beautiful as a Black female regenerative farming educator and thought leader. I found her article so profound, of connecting the dots of what it really means to heal the wound of being enslaved to work the land for centuries, and how do you heal the relationship with the land, and what does it mean when we say Black Lives Matter, and why is it important to say it right now? And it's just, her article for me hit home that it's about that human connection with the land. And when that has been taken away from you, or that has been tampered with unequally, unfairly to your other human counterparts, that is heartbreaking. That is excruciating, So
yeah,
it makes me happy because we've got to feel it to heal it. And I think a lot of people have been so privileged, they don't even know. They don't even realize the level of privilege that they have had and enjoyed, and what it's going to take to actually change it.
Well, the frustrating thing is sometimes people of privilege view equality as oppression, and it's the absolute opposite of that, It's actually a lack of oppression. But when you've been used to being the one with all of the privilege, somebody else gaining privilege can seem like you're losing something, and that's actually an illusion. It's not true. And that's what we have to fight against, is this idea that by lifting other people up, we're sinking anybody else, because that's not the way it works. When you lift other people up, we lift everybody up. And that has to be the attitude that we have, or we're not going to be successful in this. And it's slow, man. It's slow. And there are people that are actively resisting on purpose with full knowledge of what they're doing. But we just got to keep, spreading the love and truth and opportunity. It's all about opportunity, equal opportunity for everybody.
You bring up that important point. I think it's like a milestone for those of us that are cannabis activists, I feel, is to really root out the idea of scarcity. Scarcity in our mindset, scarcity with how we're doing business, scarcity with how we're approaching our communities. I think that's a frontline idea, because it doesn't exist in nature, right? Everything is regenerative, everything is abundant, and there is enough for everyone. We know that to be true, but yet scarcity is perpetuated. And it's being perpetuated in the green rush dynamic, that there's this feeling that if your competitor rises, then you're out. Versus, and it's perpetuated by the poorly written regulations. From what happened in Canada, where most small mom and pops were pushed out, and certainly there's like next to no minorities in the Canadian cannabis industry. It's pretty disturbing to see.
One out of 600 owners.
I was like the only black dispensary owner in all of Canada. We had on a panel recently, and I was just like, wow, yeah, of course, it's a predominantly white nation, but still, there are plenty of minorities that should be involved, and we're dealing with that here. So, not to belabor it, but I think we have to get away from this scarcity mindset. But it's difficult when the regulations are written against it.
Yep. Well, there's enough of everything to go around, and especially if people don't hoard, Speaking of that, speaking of hoarding, crazy segue, but it was just announced that Amazon is going to stop testing its employees for cannabis and is going to start supporting the MORE Act and the passage of legalization. And I have mixed feelings about that because I imagine that Amazon wants to be the one delivering the cannabis. But it's just another milestone to show that things are turning around, and certainly all those Amazon employees don't need to be getting tested for cannabis. They should have the right to smoke weed on their own time as much as possible. But there's enough of everything to go around, and abundance needs to replace the concept of scarcity because we have an abundant world here, and we're very fortunate and blessed because of that.
I find that as a signal of acceptance. That's a big company. It's accepting that, and hopefully it's one of many that starts breaking down that wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if the world's largest company does that, you can bet that's going to make it a little bit easier for the other companies to do the same.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's when people are in jobs or positions that aren't, I realize there's some jobs that people look at as being sensitive jobs, and some people aren't even allowed to have, alcohol for some certain amount of times as well. But, for the general public out there, it's crazy that some of the things that they're not allowed to do because, they consume cannabis, but yet, there could be it's a patient the majority of the time, and you gotta, unfortunately, they end up suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prohibition's whole thing is to create a problem where one doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then go to problem.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Julie, Vivian, I see it's about on the hour. Break time? Julie.
Cool beans.
Oh, look at that. Julie has fallen off the call. I will get Julie back on here. We'll go to break, Vivian, and then I'll get Julie back on during the break. She may even get on before then because I already called her. So I'm just waiting to see what happens here.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah, she just sent me a message. Hey, what happened? Yeah, she got a drop call. That's what happened. All right, I'm gonna go for the break, and we'll get Julie back on here for afterwards. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Once again, People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Check them out.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Hello and welcome back. We're the Pace Radio Show, and we are live here at paceradio.net. Today in the program, we're joined by our guest Vivian McPeak of the Seattle HEMPFEST and the managing editor at SKUNK Magazine, plus my joint host, SKUNK Magazine's co-owner and editor, Julie Chiariello. Skunk, and celebration and there's got a word for protestation or something like that, because it's a protest as well as celebration that happens during the Seattle HEMPFEST. Well, Julie and Vivian, we had lost Julie before the break, and we got her back here. And we were just discussing some more stuff about Amazon during the break, behind the break, because Julie, you missed that part of the conversation.
Yeah, because I was cursing Jeff Bezos when I got dropped that he could be, freaking Batman. Like, he could end world hunger. Like, I would. If I had that kind of money, man, people would be lit up, like water for everybody, food forests everywhere. I mean, give me a break. I just can't believe it. I really can't. And yeah, so he disappoints me all of the time. And I have boycotted Amazon, except my son got into Kindle, and so now I'm using Kindle. And it just pisses me off. But I'm not trying to be some saint. I mean, I think that it's messy. I'm always talking about a renaissance, and I feel like a renaissance is chaotic, and it's messy, and it takes time. But damn, I wish that people like Bezos set a better example. for new style business on the side.
Well,
business that's regenerative.
Will the drone delivery business pick up? I'm just...
I just...
Go ahead, Vivian.
I was going to say that I just have a problem with a society that allows one person to control that much wealth and power when he's got more money than some countries do, and no human being. Let's give him credit. He created probably the smartest business model in the history of capitalism, but no human being could earn that much money in a lifetime, and I don't think that any human being should have that much money, and they should be sharing. And that's just my, as an old hippie dude, I just can't conceptualize hoarding that much money and not taking care of more than he does. And let's give, Amazon does some philanthropic stuff. But why does he do that? Does he do that?
It's criminal that he didn't do it, and that it's known, that he's able to, it should not be allowed. It doesn't matter if it pencils out with the laws. Once you hit a certain level of being a multi-billionaire at the level that he is, I don't even know if it's cresting trillionaire, because his wealth got so spiked during this pandemic, which was another depression. And you saw the different industries that rose, and home delivery of goods is massive for society right now. So, he's like one of those of old.
Of our sick system, when in this horrible crisis, the richest people get infinitely richer while everybody else is getting destroyed. And now, of course, the price of everything is going up, when we're hurting. And it's and so the rich people just amass more wealth and consolidate their wealth and power. And that's the problem with this version of capitalism, man. This corporate capitalism is that it keeps the small people down, and the fat, rich people get richer. And I got a problem with that. And we see it, happening in the cannabis paradigm. And so, that's not a sustainable approach.
And like Martin Luther King Jr. said, and Malcolm X and other thought leaders, that capitalism is also inherently racist, and that it's almost as if humans have amnesia that things change, things evolve, systems end, and that we're literally in a post-capitalist system right now. Capitalism has ended, but we're still living through the most horrifying aspects of it. But it's officially ended, and we must continue to work at birthing these new systems. But yeah, it's under duress. I'm looking at it here in California with the cannabis industry and small craft farmers banding together in collective and cooperative distribution clustering, so that they can feed into the market and have more power and have the ability to stay alive. But it's very difficult. It's next to impossible to survive legally, and they're not able to do all the workarounds like people like Jeff Bezos. And so, he's able to make it so that he pays zero tax. And the California cannabis companies are definitely not in that position. They're paying, it's alarming, the rate. I wish I had the actual numbers, but they're taxed 4 and 5 times before they get to market.
Yeah, and of course, who pays for that? The consumer, the customer, right? And
the patient. I was thinking back. I was kind of like mourning 215 and Dennis Perone and the Compassionate Care Act and what that felt like being Californian. It just felt so different to be seen as a patient versus being seen as a consumer, it's a big change that's happened in California. And it's not it's not a good one.
And let's talk about, while we're talking about the redistribution of income and wealth, all of the people that were on the margins that were, for whatever reason, they were disabled or, whatever, who were making it for decades by keeping the cannabis culture alive, the cannabis black market alive, growing weed, selling weed. And we were all naive enough to think, for years, that if we achieved legalization, those people could keep doing what they're doing without fear of prosecution. And instead, what we've seen is those people had 100% of their income taken away in about 90% of the time, and are completely shut out. And a lot of those people were patients themselves, and the only way that they could afford the medicine that they needed was to sling weed, and what we haven't seen is any equity for those folks as well. And some of those folks are starving now. And when they spent decades providing weed to the cannabis community, doing a tremendous service at great personal risk.
Well, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. It's truly heartbreaking. We're failing the patients at every level right now. At any place that I've seen legalization take place, I don't see us doing it well. They're completely getting shut out. They can't afford it. And as you said, then they make it impossible for you to grow it. So then what are you supposed to do? So, I feel like, we're dealing with a Prohibition 2.0, and we're just got to push through and keep evolving. But it's with great heartache, because I know a lot of us are very fatigued and very tired. And yet we have to press on, I think, for another couple of decades before we see maybe another decade if things pick up with prohibition ending in the U.S., and then that will be like a tidal wave that will change a lot of things. And
it might be a generational thing, right, Julie? It might be a generational thing that we just need a turnover in generations so that there's no more people left that view cannabis as this evil, equivalent of heroin or something. But what I think we're experiencing is legalization on the prohibitionist terms. And we have some states, some really conservative states, they're kind of passing these CBD medical laws in an effort to kind of, as a smokescreen, to stop the THC from being legalized for patients. It's kind of a preemptive thing to say, oh, no, we've got a medical marijuana law here. You can have unsmokable, cannabis oil. Yeah. But, a lot of those places that are passing medical marijuana laws, smokable cannabis isn't a part of it.
Exactly. Florida was like that as well. They had a big court battle over legalization as far as the smoking part for the patients. I mean, it was, and it's brutal to see that not being an option for patients. But there's so much, evidence and support of the smoking of cannabis for its benefits, for quick effect for many people. It shouldn't be eliminated where someone's forced to, drink it or eat it and then wait an hour for it to get through the system, or half an hour, 45 minutes, when you can get it quick relief just by smoking or vaporizing. Because like here in Ontario, when you talk about
the thing, we're just lacking.
Yeah, like here in Ontario, when we legalized cannabis here in Canada, in Ontario, they put the cannabis in with the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, and that included vaporizing. Mm-hmm. So we had many lounges here in Ontario that shut down because it was no longer illegal for them to consume their cannabis within a building on the inside. So it was a legal thing. Patients, or myself and many that would go to these,
lobbying to close those those vapor lounges down. And it's so sad because, that should not be allowed to be done if people knew the science. And that's, I just always think, we've got to keep pushing with science.
Like, where's the secondhand? Where's the science saying that secondhand vaporizing is dangerous to one's health? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
there is no science.
There is none. Yeah.
The drug war has always been a class war and a culture war also at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was never from the beginning, it was never about science or understanding. You're exactly right. It was about putting forward false ideas and false understandings. You know, I was just writing about it in my editor's letter with Anslinger starting in the 20, or in the late, when did he begin? But it was the idea that, he really went after particular races. He went after entertainers, jazz entertainers, blues entertainers, which of course were profiling Black, Latino, Filipino, so there were, everything that we've been told is a lie. That's pretty severe to think about, that we're eradicating lies that have been told for a century plus, and now we're just kind of really uncovering and continuing to uncover all these lies for decades.
Yeah, cannabis.
And we just got to keep going.
I think it was Jack Harrow, one of his in the movies. He said something about cannabis has been illegal longer than it's been legal longer than it's been illegal, because it's only been illegal for 100 years, right? As far as when yeah. So unfortunately, it's going to take us probably that long to get rid of a lot of the stigma.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yet it's been, it was legal well before it was illegal for many, many years. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For so long, it is a perfect plant. When we look at the science for us, it resembles mother's breast milk. The way that the cannabinoids are present, and the way that it works with our endocannabinoid system. So I do think it is one of the most highly important things. It's just that we keep pressing forward with educating about the endocannabinoid system, everybody we can. They don't ever have to use cannabis if they don't want, but just tell everybody you can, because and that's the work that we're going to keep on doing with SKUNK. And I did want to dig into that a bit, Vivian, before we head to the next break. Of what was it like, I guess, on the inside track? Not everybody gets to see the inside track of producing a magazine. And so it was super amazing to have you on board. I loved it. I loved working with you. But what was it like for you to go through it and let people know?
Well, it was very
now
exciting,
that you've done it once.
It was very exciting to read, all the articles, and all these wonderful stories and all of the almost academic level of instructional stuff on regenerative organic cannabis cultivation, and learn the techniques and the experiences that people have over trial and error figured out. And all the beautiful cultural stuff. And, it's just really an eclectic magazine with a tremendous, tremendous collection of really good content. I was just kind of blown away by the caliber of the content, to be honest. And, of course, I learned a lot, in the process of reading and editing the articles. And just everybody is so cool, everybody is just, and that's, really that's the cannabis community in general. But everybody at SKUNK and all of the contributors that I interacted with and everything were just awesome people. And I'm just very proud to be a part of a magazine that shares an ethos and a value system that is so close to my own. I'm very honored to be, I've always loved SKUNK Magazine for, a long time. Never dreamed in a million years that I'd be on the team. So it's pretty cool.
It is totally fucking cool. I never imagined it. I always have been admiring you, and been to HEMPFEST so many times, and remember seeing Dennis Kucinich was a big moment for me of just seeing how all of those things were merging together in this expression of how should we be living on the planet and how should we be doing things. And so, yeah, it is truly amazing that now here you are with us, and this is just the first one. So I can't wait to do, even more exciting things with you. I know we have our catch-up call scheduled for this week, hopefully, so we can share an update and get ready for the fall issue. But it's going to be super fun with you because you're a counterculture head, so the things that have inspired me, I'm bringing them back in, with like the Mother Earth catalog, and just kind of a lot of the things, all of the counterculture magazines, rags, and all of the counterculture books, and all those merging of those worlds, where you could, listen to Jimi Hendrix or go see a Dead show and then listen to some Alan Watts and then, drop some acid inspired by Leary. Like, all of those things really spoke deeply to my soul, being a young kid. Even though I was born in 76, that's what I fell in love with when I was a teenager. So I feel like there's a kindred spirit there with us working together that we haven't even gotten a chance yet to even get ready to start to taste, right, of the kind of fun we can have. Do you feel that? I feel that kind of energy rising up that I'm excited to explore more as we go along.
Well, one of the things that impressed me so much about Skunk is a recognition that there's an entire new guard. There's an entire new young cannabis culture that has its own flavor and its own identity, and is coming into its own, but also acknowledging and honoring the old guard countercultural icons that paved the way, for us to be here today, because it's really all one evolving, never-ending, chain of lineage in the cannabis, paradigm. In this summer's edition, there's that great article with Richard Jurgensen, the founder of the Cannabis Culture Museum and Archive, for example, right? So there's just a little bit of everything for everybody, and that's what I thought was so cool about it.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there, is that that's what's always been the good feeling to me, is that we have the elders and we have the young rabble-rousers, and we have us all together in community, living the good life together, enjoying the journey together while we fight for what's right. So,
and we're not in competition.
And that feels right.
Right? We enhance each other, and there's no competition or anything like. We're all petals in the beautiful flower together, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle. And you miss one piece, and it could be the ugliest piece or the prettiest piece, but it doesn't make any difference because that puzzle's not complete. That beautiful picture's not complete without all the pieces, and that's the whole point of everything. That's the whole point of equity, even, is that we need everybody at the table equally, and then we're the strongest. We're stronger that way. We're stronger when everybody is equal and everybody's participating. It's an illusion. It's an illusion that there's any weakness in that for anybody.
It's true. That's exactly right. Yep. It's a universal law, which, when you realize the power that this is a law that governs the universe, and that the way we've been trying to be is out of step with the universe, out of alignment, and that actually by recognizing this truth and putting it into action, then we're coming into alignment with the universe again. And that is for every human being. Everybody.
And,
no one's exempt.
We either proactively and responsibly and collaboratively create that equilibrium, or the universe does it for us. And if we don't put our house in order on this planet and change our consumption and our waste and our approach, nature's going to do it for us, and it's going to be ugly, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. And we need to change our practices, and which is why I love the ethos of skunk with regenerative, organic cultivation, because we can't stop with cannabis. We need regenerative, organic cultivation with every plant we're growing on the earth.
It's true. And it's huge. That's another huge undertaking. I honestly sit here and laugh and go, there's just these huge, massive undertakings, huge societal shifts that need to continue to be nourished. And it's like we could just like pick up a shovel, pick up a fork. I mean, not a fork. Pick up a shovel or pick up whatever. Pick up a rake. I am stoned. It's a good hash joint. But definitely, it's just, it's the idea that, man, we have a lot of work to do. And so, I don't know, I've been, digging on the fact that I do, while we're doing all this work, that I do want to try and keep some joy, keep some dancing, keep some lighter energy, to help balance just all of the heavy lifting that we're all doing. Because we really are, millions and millions of us really fighting for good things.
Yeah.
So, don't you agree, Vivian? You put on a festival. It's a festival mixed with protest.
Well, we're coming out of a stressful time, and it's still stressful, and it's going to be stressful, and there's a lot of pressure on all of us, and we got to remember this is also still our life going by, and you don't have to feel guilty for taking time out and try to experience your bliss, because this is our lives going by, and it's always been complicated, and we do need to strike balance, and we do need self-care, and we do need community, very, very much so. And we're not going to do our best work, and we're not going to be creative like we need to be to address these challenges, and we're not going to have resilience if we don't take care of our body and our head and our spirit. So it's hard to balance, it's hard. But we need to do that, and we need to take care of each other and be nurturing to ourselves and be nurturing to each other. And in this environment we're in today, this heated, divided environment, it's hard to find the way sometimes, and we need each other.
Right.
We need each other to figure out that way to the light. Or we're not going to make it, and we got to make it, and we're going to make it.
That's so true, and that is the heart of love. I do believe that love is the master frequency. And before we got on the show, I was listening to Bob Marley. And I always think about how influential he was, how many people he affected. But then I also like to think about, how are we living those words? One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right. How well are
Oh, there you go, Vivian. It must be break time. She's dropped.
No,
she's dropped again. She's dropped again. But you go ahead if you want to answer her question. Go ahead.
She'll be back. She's lifting that fork, man.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go for break, and we'll get Julie back on during that time. So Julie and yeah. All right, Julie and I will continue our conversation with our guest, Vivian McPeak, in about 4 minutes. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888. And grow on with CP.
Pace Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, welcome back and thanks for tuning in to the Pace Radio Show. We are being broadcasted live here at paceradio.net. And just so you know, we did get Julie back in the fold. She is back here with us, as well as our guest, Vivian McPeak of the Seattle HEMPFEST. She is here as well. And Julie, geez, I don't know the timing. It just seems to be like we're at break time tonight. You just get dropped from Skype, and you're on the phone
right before break. I don't know what's going on. I'm in the vortex. I'm in the Mercury retrograde vortex.
The Bermuda cell.
But
I'm
out again. I'm out again. Out on the other side, and I was actually thinking about the Seattle HEMPFEST and how last year I was so honored and excited that Vivian chose and asked if you could do the theme of the Green Renaissance for the Seattle HEMPFEST last year. So I was able to sit down with Vivian, and we did a keynote discussion and so many amazing speakers and musical guests last year, and it was just a wild, weird year, right, of the pandemic and trying to come up with a plan B. So what's happening this year? It's like plan C of like what's going on. Viv, I wanted to give you a chance to give people an update on Seattle HEMPFEST and anything they should know about this year. And I obviously love Seattle HEMPFEST, and I'm excited to support you guys in any way I can. It's just been really tough on events that this has carried on for so long.
Well, you know, this is our 30th year, and it's my 30th year, and it's been a long, hard journey to justice. And unfortunately, this year is going to be complicated too. There's not going to be a traditional hemp fest down in the park with 100,000 people in 2021, like we've had for the last 28 years. We weren't able to do it last year either. It's just a little bit too soon to have that many people. We're not able to get a permit for an event that large, and there's a lot of very complex limitations on events right now in Seattle and King County and Washington State. And we normally spend an entire year working on the production of HempFest. It's a gigantic, ginormous undertaking of a 99.9% volunteer organization. So, you know, we can't do it in 3 months. It's just not possible, even if they were giving us a permit. So it's pretty frustrating because not having the event last year and this year has been kind of economically devastating on our organization. We spent the last 10 years with a really nice hemp boutique head shop, and offices in Lake City here in Seattle. And unfortunately, due to the forced closures, you know, the necessary closures of businesses at the height of the pandemic, we lost our store and offices not that long ago, maybe 5 months ago. And so we're operating out of our homes, and we had to slash salaries, you know, cut all of our salaries out and stuff. So it's been tough, and we're in debt. But we're still alive, and we're still plugging. And our hope is to come back strong in 2022 with a traditional hemp fest like everybody has come to know, with, you know, 350 arts, crafts, food, and informational vendors and multiple stages and 100 bands and over 100 speakers and a huge symposium tent with panel discussions and all the stuff that people have come to know and expect from Seattle Hemp Fest. What we are doing this year, what we're planning, is actually very different, very out of the box. Pretty ambitious, almost a little scary, but you know, we thought long and hard about it, and so what we're going to do is something very different. We're going to organize on our normal weekend of August 21st a citywide, neighborhood by neighborhood volunteer trash collection, trash pickup, with a specific focus on single-use plastics, which we all know break down into microplastics, and in the case of Seattle, go down the drain in the gutter and end up in the Puget Sound in the water, and then seriously negatively affects the biosphere, and is actually threatening life on Earth, believe it or not, microplastics in the ocean. And that's a complicated story, but and one of the things that we want to do, we have two other additional goals that we want to do, which kind of ties the cannabis into this. Number one is we want to start a conversation about the mass prevalence of single-use plastics in the cannabis industry, number one, and also encourage cannabis users to not throw your stuff down on the ground. We see a lot of doob tubes and empty pot packages on the ground here in Seattle, on the sidewalk, by bus stops and stuff, and that's a single-use plastic, and it's going to break down into microplastics. And then the other thing that we want to start a conversation about is the amazing potential of biodegradable hemp plastic. And we need to put more research and more funding into hemp plastics, because we could replace all of this toxic single-use plastic, petrochemical plastic, with biodegradable hemp plastic. It was just announced by Lego that Lego is going to switch to hemp plastic for all of their Lego pieces. And there's a company in Australia right now that makes almost anything that's plastic-based out of biodegradable hemp plastics. So this is an important conversation that we need to start and get going. And in the process, try to transform our pain and disappointment into something beautiful for the entire city, using our time-tested volunteer model of community volunteerism. And it really kind of harkens back to the pre-HempFest days of the Seattle Peace Heathens, where we actually used to do, something called Operation Clean Sweep. And so it's the great community green sweep. And we're working on a web page and a landing page right now for it and stuff. And there's a lot of details to be worked out, a lot of logistics and stuff. Like I say, it's a little bit intimidating because it's a big thing that we're trying to do. And it's going to rely on support and cooperation from the greater community and stuff. But, if you're not aiming high, then you're not getting high.
That's right. That's right. You've always been ballsy in just going for it, and you've always been supported and pulled it off. And I know this year is going to be no different, and I think it is beautiful. And it's getting back to the roots and connecting the dots. And I definitely felt Jack Herer smiling above that this is the crux right now. And we got to keep driving this point home. That's one of the other reasons that I'm so excited to have you on board at SKUNK, Viv, because there's still so much to be done.
Oh, yes.
With helping to encourage. I'm still right now attempting to figure out how to print skunk on hemp and really start to encourage hemp paper and get it to be viable. It could come this year. It is challenging, but it could come this year. But listen, my cost of print went up this year as well under the duress of the pandemic. I was looking at crunching the numbers this week, and it was like, wow.
WTF.
Yeah. It's like, man, under duress, we have to change. We have to change. So I'm going to try to keep trying to figure it out. Keep trying to figure it out how we can print on hemp. Keep trying to figure out how we can get hemp textiles back into our systems again.
Well, it's challenging.
Think of that.
The federal government is still treating hemp like it's plutonium, and we need it to completely loosen up, even though we've got it arguably, quasi-federally legal. But we need more hemp production, not just for CBD oil. Yeah. We need hemp production for textiles, for fiber. And we need the processing facilities so that we can compete with China and Romania and the other places that have been providing the hemp, so that we can grow hemp and produce hemp domestically and lower the price of it so that it's affordable, so we can start replacing these petrochemical materials with regenerative, sustainable, biodegradable hemp. And it's the culmination of Jack Herer's life work is that we're seeing this potential start to take hold. But we have a lot of work to do and a lot of advocacy and a lot of change that needs to be changed.
One thing that's gladdened my heart is I've seen a few different bigger native groups start to look into how they could do hemp industry on the res. And I thought that was so profound in terms of, versus a casino, in terms of communities taking the power back, even under duress. So I'm excited to cover more of those stories in the next coming months of native success stories to keep turning this heartbreak around. And then here we just found out about the 250 children killed in Kamloops. And it's just like, we have a lot of righting of wrongs to do. Mm-hmm. And it's through hemp and cannabis and mushrooms. And don't you, it's just, I feel it so strongly that we must continue.
And it's so important because in these conversations about equity and cannabis, often Indigenous communities, First Nations peoples aren't necessarily included all the time in those conversations, and we need to make sure that the people who were on this land before we came, or before our ancestors came from other continents and created, basically genocide, and with all this dishonesty and violence and subjugation, we need to make sure that Indigenous people are also included in the equity and in involvement in the cannabis paradigm.
That's what you've always done at the HEMPFEST, is you always started and ended with the native ceremony. And it was so profound. I wept in the audience last time because I was so overcome by just how important that is. Because we can't take back what has happened, but we've got to make it, we can fight for making it equitable and making it equal. And as you said, they need to be invited to the conversation at all. That's why it's important to me. I mean, I'm a Latina, but I'm seen as white forward-facing, but it's important that having the conversation that we're having right now, and keep on having these kinds of conversations of what, how we're going to roll up our sleeves and keep making a difference. I want to work with Native leaders right now, all over the place. We had a Mary Jane Oatman article, her article in the current summer issue that's going to be coming out. She's going to be working with us consistently. She owns a Native magazine that's going out to all the tribes across North America. And I'm excited to work with people like Mary Jane to see how we can help Vivian to make it truly different. Bring the hemp industry to the people who are most suffering.
Yes, absolutely. And we need Indigenous First Nations people at the table. We need everybody at the table. We especially need to make sure that we have prioritized and made room for and reserved room for those communities that have been most impacted and that have been, had the most injustice heaped upon them. And I say that as a white male American, and, in all of my privilege that I was born into, that I didn't do anything to earn or deserve at all. And, I'm a hippie dude, an old hippie, had long hair almost all my life and stuff. But that doesn't mean that I haven't been enjoying the white privilege by osmosis, by proxy, just by the nature of the color of my skin. And that's what we have to change. And we need to bring everybody at the table, and everybody needs to have an equal say and an equal experience. No matter how painful that is for anybody, it doesn't matter. Get over it. Basically, get over it. You should be rejoicing that people are included. Not thinking about whatever it might cost you, which is really an illusion.
Yeah, and fighting legislation. Like I wanted to mention one thing for those who are listening in. Thank you so much. But to be aware of what's going on in Sacramento right now with the California legalization, they had, I think, like $182 million that was going to be put towards legalization efforts, like to help licensing, help equity. There were people, there were fighters on the ground who fought for equity to be written into the legislation. I can tell people exactly what act did that. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to pull it up. But the idea is that what has just been discovered is that a large portion of that money is going to be set aside for leasing. And we all know what that currently means, because what has been disheartening to me, as I had to do some studying of statistics, is black and brown people are still being arrested at alarmingly high rates for cannabis, even in legal areas, so-called legal areas. They're the ones getting profiled still under legalization. And now in a so-called California legalization budget, it was an alarming number. I think it was like 120-something million. It's going to be set aside for policing. And it made me so mad. And I just thought, this is the most racist thing. Meanwhile, you have entities like MedMen and Ease. I mean, Ease is starting to do some equity things, so I'm happy about how they've kind of been evolving. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of that? That is crazy. That's a big fight.
It is a huge fight. You know, there's so many struggles going on at one time. It can make you dizzy, but we need to be at the front lines of this, and we need to defend that which is right, which is always what the cannabis reform movement's been about.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Yeah. So please help in any way you can in your community to see more equality and to see more black and brown faces at the events, in the community, invited into the businesses, in places of leadership, in places of ownership. Let's keep on saying, what more could I do? That's all I can think of, because that's only the way. It's like one raindrop raises the level of the ocean. I have to keep believing in that all of our little raindrops are going to keep adding up to an improved culture. Because right now it is very whitewashed, and it is also very not economically sound. So I think those are the two things: social justice and environmental justice go together. And so I'm really happy what you're doing with Seattle HEMPFEST this year, Vivian. I think it is so timely and also sane. To do the very best use of your time that you possibly could. So bravo to all you guys, and we love you guys. Where can people go to find what's going to be going on with Seattle HEMPFEST this year?
Well, they'll be able to go to hempfest.org, but it's not ready now because we just made this decision. But greatgreensweep.com is going to be the landing page for this operation. And we encourage people in every city actually to go out on that weekend and collect trash with a focus on single-use plastics. But just make sure you wear gloves and be safe. Don't walk out into traffic or anything like that. And you'll bring some hand sanitizer and all that kind of stuff. Don't wear rubber gloves because that'll just contribute to the plastic and the rubber use and stuff. But we encourage everybody to go out in the community where you live. I go on these long walks, and I pick up, I bring a bag with me, and I'm amazed at the amount of already breaking down brittle single-use plastics that's on the sidewalk and in the gutter and stuff. So just be safe, but we encourage everybody to get involved.
I know in our local Facebook group here, this spring, several people were posting pictures of the garbage they were seeing and picking up in the ditches, and they were just awestruck about what they were finding and why people weren't going to the dumps.
Well, we could do a better job of educating people in this country and raising awareness about our biosphere and about Mother Nature, our beautiful planet, and how to dispose property, how to reduce, reuse, and recycle, and dispose of the materials that we do need. The MOOP, as they say out in Nevada, at Burning Man, MOOP, which is materials out of place.
Okay, yeah, and the Burning Man events. I know if somebody had one similar in my neck of the woods up here. It was an interesting time, I'll tell you. That's for sure.
Well, we've been burning, man.
We've been Burning Man for a long time. I know many burners. Yeah, San Diego is filled with burners. That's where I raised my son for 20 years. But it's all about evolution. I mean, it's about this conversation that we need to be having as one humanity to keep evolving our system. I want to give a shout out for people who want to follow what's going on in Sacramento and in California Equity. On Instagram, you can go to Local Equity Distro and Equity Trade Certification. You can also follow me, Julie Chiariello. I will be posting updates, and I want to share more. Definitely, we must keep fighting for a more equitable industry. I believe that 100%. So, thank you, Vivian, for coming on tonight. I really appreciate spending time with you. I'd love to have you on every quarter just to talk about what the current state of affairs are. So thanks for being on board with us also at SKUNK. It's just been such a gift to have your presence on board with us. So very appreciative, and thank you, Al, for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Oh, you're welcome.
And check out what we're doing at skunkmagazine.com. Lots of new stuff coming up. So check out what we're doing over there. Thanks.
All right, super.
Stay Alan.
What was that, Vivian?
I just said you guys stay strong, both of you. Thank you so much. Much love.
Thank you. All right, Julie, with Kim off, you're back next week. With all fingers crossed that you haven't worn out another pair of shoes by then. Let's see. You can find Pace on Twitter, and you can also find the Pace Radio Show on there as well as on Instagram. Thank you. Just go to our sponsors, Legacy 420, BMAHydroponics.com, DrBuckCTS.com, as well as the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Thank you to you, Vivian McPeak of the Seattle HEMPFEST, and now of SKUNK Magazine. And to my joint host, Julie Chiariello, plus a big thank you to all our listeners. Thank you, and good night.
I blame it on industry.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Do you want to hear what patients and cannabis advocates have to say? If so, then catch the Pace Radio Show Wednesday nights here on paceradio.net.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.